Hello folks, Lana here, coming at you with a quick thought. I always say that and that's never quick. I want to talk about shame. This thought on shame is related to something that I'm working through, but also inspired by reading the Dance of Fear book by Harriet Lerner. And she talks about shame as a unique feeling in that it sort of strips us of all our dignity. It's something that it's a voice inside our head that says that we are essentially terrible. That like the core essence of who we are is bad. And I think that voice in our heads, like many of the negative voices in our heads, thrives in silence when we're not talking about what's going on inside our heads and hearts. When we let that voice just yammer on inside our skull, and we don't challenge it with an alternate narrative. And so Lerner in our book talks about combating shame with pride. So some examples she gave were feeling shame over, say, your thick thighs, and combating that with pride in the strength of your legs and what it's able to do. And you could apply that to probably most aspects of your body, appreciating what it can do versus what it looks like, perhaps. Shame thrives in silence, and we could apply this to, don't ask, don't tell policies in the military, or even in relationships, especially open relationships where maybe there's a don't ask, don't tell policy. I feel like transparency is when you shed light on those deep, dark feelings inside. It can make them feel less dark and less terrible. And I think often because shame is something we internalize due to external factors, social influences, that examples of what we should be like, and then we realize that, through comparison, we are not that thing or that way, and then we decide that we must be bad then, or must not be as good. And I lost my train of thought. But yeah, when we talk about what it is we're thinking and feeling, and combat it with a comeback to those negative thoughts, can feel less bad, less terrible. Anyway, this was supposed to be really interesting. Yeah, I guess I just want to remind myself and remind you and others that whatever it is that you feel ashamed of or feel shame around, likely other people are carrying similar things. It might be just for a different reason. And as scary as it may feel, finding somebody to talk to about that shame, I think, can be really helpful. And maybe it's not even talking to somebody about it. Maybe it's literally just writing it down and admitting that that's something that you feel. Putting it out there in the open, facing the fear around our shame as well, is a courageous act. But if we don't want that negative voice in our heads to continue to live and thrive, we need to call it out for what it is, and combat it with an alternate narrative. I don't know if that's true. Brain, mean voice in my head. Yeah. I also just want to add that Lerner also talks about shame being isolating. And shame is one of those things that others ourselves. It separates us and cuts us off from the rest of humanity. It's one of those feelings that I think says, I'm this way and other people are that way, and because I'm different or I have this defect, whatever the shame voice is telling you, it means that I'm less than, and that others, it cuts you off from your humanity, right? Your permission to not be perfect, and separates you from other people. And she also talks about how giving shame, or the thing that you are ashamed of, a name can help in making it feel less icky, She gives the example of our bodily anatomy and how many women are not taught the words for their parts of their body, especially their sexual organs, like their vulva, and how, just literally learning the word vulva can help reduce a lot of shame around our parts, our parts that are not meant to be talked about, stereotypically. And I think, so that applies to that kind of thing, but also, I think calling out, like, what am I ashamed of? Am I ashamed, what am I feeling shame around? Is it my size? Is it my skin? Is it a personal attribute? Is this really that important? Does this define me? And then coming up with those alternate narratives, like, does this define me? Is this an accurate belief? Am I seeing things in a biased lens, which you will? How could I flip, that thing that feels like something to be ashamed of into something that I could be proud of? Yeah. I hope wherever you are, you can have the day that you need to have. And I will see you in the next one. That's it.